All right, I think we're good. Hi, everybody. I am Heather Coleman, psychic medium, tarot card reader. This is our new kitty. This is Robbie, or Robert. Very energetic little guy. But he wanted to come in and say hi real quick, and now he wants to get back to exploring everything around here, which is what kittens do. I went ahead and pulled some cards right before hopping on here. I was really guided. In fact, we went and got this little guy last night, and as soon as he sat in my lap, I just had this very strong sense that I needed to hop on here and do a video. So here we are. We've got the Power of Surrender deck that we're going to be reading from. The author is Judith Orloff. I don't know, hopefully you can see that. No, there might be a glare. That's our author. I've had this deck for quite a few years, and it's one of those decks, I think, especially that tends to show new meaning as we go through different stages of life. And Spirit is saying that we are entering a pretty important new phase this season, this fall. We're in autumn. So we're going to dive right in. I'm going to hold up the cards. Let's see if you're drawn to one more than the other. Here is card number one. Card number one. And here is card number two. Card number two. Are you drawn there? Finally, we have card number three. Are you drawn to card number three? So let's just take a deep breath here. Again, the theme here we have is the power of surrender. And we just had that message that we are entering. For some of you, it's a new phase, singular. For many of you out there, it's going to be more than one phase. Maybe you're entering a couple new phases at one time. Whenever we enter a new phase, we're letting go of something or more than one something. So let's see what Spirit would like you to surrender. Card number one, surrender your fear of change. Surrender your fear of change. The universe is reminding you that you are cared for always. Whether you're afraid of a change in your job, your health, or a relationship, or if you fear aging or death, repeat this affirmation. I have faith that all is well. This makes a lot of sense. And I didn't even look at these. I selected them. I didn't even look at them before I gave you those opening messages. And it makes a lot of sense when we talk about entering new phases in life, surrendering that fear of change, because change is the only constant. Change is the only constant. The reason we often become fearful of change is much so, for many of us, a lot of it goes back to childhood. If, for example, let's say you went through your parents getting divorced when you were young, and perhaps it meant that you didn't see nearly as much of one parent or both parents, right? Maybe you felt torn between them both. Your young self would perceive that as a loss. And that's just a really good example. But sometimes if we're carrying around those wounds, we might have more fears than even is necessary. Let's say going through a divorce of our own, or supporting someone through divorce. If we remember, oh God, this was so awful for me. And again, it really, usually for most of us, it centers around loss. And that's just an example. This could apply to something different for you. But Spirit is really calling on us right now to reflect back on what changes meant for us in earlier life, and if we perceived any of that as a loss, so that we can really work through those difficult memories and stop carrying that around. Before I hopped on here, I was really hearing Source talk about a lot of let's stop doing this, let's stop questioning ourselves, let's stop overthinking and questioning our own judgment so much. That's coming up as a message here. Sometimes when we have a fear of change, we are a little slower than we should be to take action on making a decision or making a change because we keep questioning our judgment. And again, a lot of that's going to go back to, what did change mean for us in childhood? Did we experience loss? And how did we work through that or not work through that? So really worth some consideration at this time. So card number two. Were you drawn to card number two? I really love this card. I love the message and the image. Surrender to Effortlessness is the title of this card. And I just happen to love how this person here is just completely opening, stretching, opening the heart. In yoga, I teach yoga, we do a lot of this sort of back bending, opening the heart. I really like the order of this because right after this message about Kitty, don't play with the cord, you know, kittens. Let's pick him up. Kitty, why don't you come help us with the message so you don't play with the computer cord, right? Kittens don't know what's a toy or what. Hi, Robbie. Be good. He's kind of hyper sometimes. Yeah, we have a crazy kitten. But talking about effortlessness, right? You want to read the card for everyone? Read it out loud for everybody. Thank you. Stop pushing so hard. So if you look at this woman is not pushing this swing, right? The art of living means going with the flow. You hear that, Kitty? Instead of trying to force the river. I've gotten this message so many times in my life as an adult when this is where this really hits home for me. There are a lot of things, it's like I just want certain things to happen faster. And I know many of you are going to relate to this. You know, for years I've said, I want to find a beautiful relationship. Well, don't we all? But not all of us find it at certain times in life. Some of us do, some of us don't. What else? Oh, I want my career to reach certain levels. I want to achieve this, or I want to go do that thing. And I think the more goal-driven and motivated you are, the more that you might be someone who has a tendency to force the river. And that's the sort of a catch-22. If you're very motivated, this kitty, he likes this, very productive person, you might be someone who has a tendency to try to force the river. But there's a difference between co-creating, creating, influencing, manifesting, and forcing. And so that's where hello kitty, if you're drawn to card number 2, surrendering to effortlessness, right? Where we we give up a false sense of control. Look at this kitty. He's got a white tip on the end of his tail. Are you happy to help us with the video, Robbie? He's a good car cat too. We've only had him like less than a full day, but he's really good in the car. You gonna go play? So card number 3, if you were drawn to card number 3, we've got surrender to the beauty of the natural world. This is going to have several messages. I want you to really take what resonates, and just if something doesn't resonate, just leave it behind. But for some of you, this is a reminder to get outside regularly. Personally, this is the first one that hits home for me. When the weather's really warm in the summers, I go outside every day. The minute the weather turns the way it is now in upstate New York, I don't even think about going outside, but I had made a resolution this year to spend more time outside in the natural world, in the fresh air. So for some of you, you can probably relate to what I just said. Maybe you're someone that when it gets cold, you tend to avoid going outside. But if you hate cold weather, and I love this message because I know I'm going to be able to use this too. If you hate cold weather, a little bit of exposure will actually balance you better so that the cold won't bother you as much. So if you just tell yourself, I'm going to get outside, even if it's only 5 minutes some days, and just maybe move around a bit, moving around in the cold weather will keep you warmer. You will better acclimate and not shiver so much from the cold. Makes perfect sense, right? Your body will SAID principle, which is what I teach my clients in fitness, specific adaptation to impose demands. So let's keep that in mind about our bodies, right? With season changes, that if we get our bodies outside at least a few minutes most days of the week, our bodies will handle those transitions a lot better. Kind of goes along with what we've already talked about with any kind of change, coping with change, rolling with change, and not forcing, right? To a certain extent, we might resist weather. We might try to force ourselves to feel a certain way when the weather changes, right? But let's take a look at what else is on here in terms of additional messages for surrender to the beauty of the natural world. Take a relaxing break and spend time in nature. That goes along with what we just talked about. Replenish yourself by feeling the beauty and the ecstasy there. So find a way to get yourself tuned into the natural world. Again, sometimes when we have shorter daylight hours, we might spend more time on screens, on phones, on Zoom, that kind of thing. So Spirit would really like you to find a way to appreciate the natural world in some way. And even if you can't be outside, maybe you find a way to look out a window more often, even just that. Maybe you introduce more natural elements into your workspace or your home space. Maybe some of you are redecorating your home or changing your work environment, and you're looking to incorporate more windows, more natural light, or just even more of a nature theme in your decor or the way you're arranging things. These are really good ideas for you at this time. So what I want to do next is I want to pull one more card to clarify, because I just feel like there's a bit more, and I can kind of often feel your energy, and I know some of you have more questions. So actually, I'm going to pull two cards, and what I want to encourage you to do right now, let a question come into your mind, and if you can't narrow it down to one question, Spirit's going to answer the one that they choose for you if you have several questions on your mind. So let a question settle into your brain, and we've got two cards. I'm just going to go ahead and read these. And it's very interesting. Both these cards are sort of about how we interact with people and show up in relationships. Surrender the habit of people pleasing. They almost are like opposite sides. We have surrender the habit of people pleasing and surrender your need to always be right. It's almost like if you have two people that just don't know how to approach conflict very well, one of them is going to try to always be right, the other one's going to people please. Neither one of them are doing themselves or the other any favors. So if you're someone who's trying to people please to a fault, and this is different from just letting certain things go, there's a difference between choosing your battles and people pleasing. That's the biggest message. Just make sure that you're not choosing your battles so often that you're always giving in, right? Sometimes you need to just say, look, I'm not okay with this, or you know what, I am going to insist on this thing or that thing, or I'm not going to do this thing, right? Speak your needs and be true to yourself. Focus on your own happiness. Focus on your own happiness instead of always trying to make everyone else happy. Something that I say a lot to my son is let's try to set the intention to be aware of our own needs and others equally. So that's what I really like to, whenever I look at a message like this, it's, well, I can still be aware of others' needs and try to be sensitive to them, but keep myself right up there with them, right? So surrendering the need to always be right. Give others the gift of letting them be right. Be yielding, not rigid. This will help resolve conflicts. So I think some of you are really going to resonate. You know what? You and the other person can both be right, even if you don't see things the same way. That's the biggest message with this. So just be willing to say to someone, we don't see this the same way. I can see your perspective. It's not any more valid or less valid. Mine is just different. Neither one of us is wrong. So that's the approach Spirit is really urging you to take toward relationships, toward maybe any disagreements, any conflicts, anything in terms of the people side of your life. Try to keep this in mind during this time. So I hope these messages resonate with you. If they do, please give the video a like. If you're on YouTube, really helps to set the algorithms. My website is heatherlcoleman.com. I offer readings, all different types, short, medium, longer length, virtual, in-person, tarot, messages from deceased, questions, whatever you really feel like works for you. I do email readings, so definitely check that out if you feel like maybe you need a deeper dive into anything that came up in today's video. Until then, I'm wishing you so much peace, so much love. Namaste.